So some potentially concerning news here on the F1Chronicle.com coming from Toto Wolff, who is saying that the calendar for next season in 2025 is over the limit with 24 races. Of course, 24 races is the exact same amount that we've had this year in Formula 1. A lot of people thinking that 20 is plenty when it comes to Formula 1 races in a season, and to be honest, I don't disagree with that sentiment. But this is what Formula 1 wants to do, and apparently 25 races is not off the cards in the coming seasons, but 24 are confirmed for 2025. So let's have a look at what Toto Wolff is saying here, the boss of Mercedes-AMG Formula 1 team. Full article on the F1 Chronicle as always. As an African Grand Prix edges ever nearer, 3 top Formula 1 personalities insist the calendar must not be expanded beyond its current 24 Grand Prix. Max Verstappen served his F-Word community service in Rwanda and collected his World Championship trophy as well at the FIA prize-giving gala, where the nation's president, Paul Kagame, said he was happy to formally announce a bid for a Grand Prix, something that we already knew from before. Rwanda is wanting to be on the Formula 1 calendar at a yet unknown, unbuilt, presumably as well, venue. We want to become the Singapore of Africa, he is quoted as saying by La Gazzetta dello Sport. That is something that they have been wanting to do for some time now, and in truth, they're going about it somewhat well, to be honest. They are becoming a lot richer in kind of almost an island of that prosperity in that part of Africa. It's not without its drawbacks, and I'm not going to get into that, but they are very much putting themselves on the map like that. A big thank you to Stefano Domenicali and the entire team at F1 for the good progress in our discussions so far. FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem agreed. Shock horror. I feel that Rwanda deserves more. Africa deserves more. I agree with the second part of that. And look at Rwanda today. Safe, nice and hospitable, he added, following concerns about safety in the country and the Marburg virus outbreak. However, with the calendar and its travelling entourage at breaking point, F1 CEO Domenicali has indicated that a new scheme involving races rotating annually places on the calendar of the future will be necessary. Mercedes boss Toto Wolff agrees that the sport cannot simply keep expanding, even though the Concord Agreement theoretically allows for a maximum of 25 Grand Prix in a season. We're over the limit, he told the Austrian broadcaster ORF. People like me travel comfortably, but the mechanics who set up and dismantle the car are flying economy. You can see it in people's faces now. It can't go on anymore. GPD chairman and former F1 driver Alex Wurz agrees. Personally, I think it's too much. I would prefer 16 races, simply because of the sporting saturation. Echoing their views is another Austrian, Red Bull advisor Dr. Helmut Marko. When he raced in the F1 in the early 70s, there were only about a dozen races. I think 24 is absolutely the limit, he said. We in senior management are privileged, but we have to think about the mechanics. I think they also have to coordinate with the whole sequence better in order to keep those 24 races on the calendar, Marko said. But in my opinion, more than 24 is not possible due to the strain, unless you start having teams with 2 separate crews. And that's something that they've spoken about for a long time, but for cost reasons, I mean, we've got a cost cap nowadays. That would never happen. It's impossible. And even if it did happen, the quality of the engineers during those 2 separate periods, it would be a lot lower. It'd be a lot more diluted, which is its own problem in itself. So yeah, I mean, personally for me, I mean, this is coming from someone who has never worked in Formula 1 as a mechanic or anything like that, despite that being my dream when I was younger. You know, I've heard, you know, for me 20 is probably the limit, and that's just going off of my own kind of viewpoint. But at the same time, I knew someone who was married to an F1 mechanic, and you know, she was like, this, you know, my husband's barely ever home. He's home for like 3 months of the year, if that, in total. And those little pockets of time when he's not at races in Europe, so essentially, you know, for example, he'd like fly back to the UK during like a week or 2 week break or whatever, he'd just be in bed all the time. The dude would just be knackered constantly. He'd be so tired that he'd just be asleep most of the day. So I feel like even 20, and that was when it was about 18, 19, 20 races. This was years ago. So maybe even that is too much. Maybe Wurz saying that 16 is enough. But unfortunately, Formula 1 is all about the money. More races, more money. they're not going to turn down money, because at the end of the day, these decisions are unfortunately made by the people like Stefano Domenicali, made by people like Toto Wolff and Christian Horner. You know, these, and I'm not saying that these guys don't have the best interests of the mechanics at heart. I mean, you heard what Toto Wolff said. You heard what Helmut Marko said as well in that article. But at the end of the day, they also know who butters the bread. They know where the money comes from, and they have to look out for the interests of their team. And the interest of the team as a whole is to make as much money as possible. There are limits, and there's an argument to be made that these limits are now, they're over them. You look at some of the triple headers that Formula One has done this season. You know, the last one to end the season, Las Vegas to Qatar to Abu Dhabi, and the one before that as well, literally a 2-week gap in between that one, and then before that you obviously had Texas, Mexico, Brazil as well, and that is a mammoth journey to undertake. Traveling really takes it out of you. If you've never done long haul flights, I can't tell you how tiring they are. And then that's just me going on holiday, you know, and I've done it. These guys have got to work. They got to get off the plane and build the garage up, get the cars assembled, get everything ready for Thursday so they can go out on Friday. You know, the cars in practice. And then on top of that, if you're like a Williams mechanic in this final stretch of this season, good lord, the amount of repairs you've had to do for Colapinto crashing, and the Aston Martin guys during the Brazil weekend. I don't know how they do it. They are incredible what they do, but they shouldn't have to do that. It shouldn't be. I mean, it's not in the job description, of course it's not, but you know, they do what they have to do at the end of the day, but it shouldn't be like that. It really shouldn't be. And for the amount of work these guys do, it's not a very high paying job when you think about it. You know, you can get an office job these days for similar pay, and yeah, you don't get to travel around the world and stuff, but the novelty of that would wear off very quickly. I think, you know, you do 1 or 2 seasons and it's like, oh, we're going to most of the same races we did last year, there's barely anything new. You know, I think it'd get very monotonous very quickly. But what do you guys think? How many races should there be in a Formula One season? 24, 20, 16? Different number? Let us know in the comments below. I want to hear your thoughts. And of course, keep it subscribed to the F1Chronicle.com to see much more content on the world of motorsport just like this. Like, share, comment, subscribe, ring the bell as well. And we'll see you soon, guys. Have a good one.